It is the Book of Giants tonight. Where are we? We're halfway. A little bit more, probably, because there will be an outro. But halfway through, and then we got to figure out what to do after this. And I don't know. I'm not sure. Discord is open. If you're watching this later, we have a Discord. There's a link in the live chat. There's a link in the description of the video. It is free. It will always be free. We do a number of these live streams every week on 2 different YouTube channels. Half of them, or I guess 3 of them, 3 out of 4 are on this one at Live Bible Study. 2 of those 3 are non-canonical. 1 of them is canonical. But in Discord, there's an events page that shows you what we're reading and when, and also where. And then every Tuesday, we do a topic discussion that is voted upon in Discord by a poll. And whatever wins the poll is what we talk about. So last week, or this week, we did hell. The week before, purgatory. We've covered things like Gnosticism, Marcion, Christian mental health, all kinds of wild but interesting stuff. David, good evening, family. Just broke up a dog and wild cat fight. They are both okay, but I got a bit on my mouse hand, so my text will be slower tonight. Love my Christian family, David. That's amusing, but glad everybody is fine. That's good. That is a good thing. That's real funny. And also kind of sad. This Saturday, we're going to be reading the Gospel of Judas. And I'm deciding on a translation right now. There's not a lot because it's a Gnostic text, so options are limited. I'm pretty sure I know which one I want to use, but I'm still kind of looking around. And now more or less just trying to get it in a good format because the formats are all pretty terrible. Okay, so I have a hard out at 7. So I'm going to start reading. We're in chapter 70. Ghost is going to be late. He let us know ahead of time. So we might be light tonight. 70. And it came to pass after this that during his lifetime, his name was raised up to the Son of Man and to the Lord of Spirits from among those who dwell on the earth. And he was raised aloft on the chariots of the Spirit, and his name vanished among them. And from that day, I was no longer numbered among them. And he placed me between the 2 winds, between the north and the west, where the angels took the cords to measure the place for the elect and righteous for me. And there I saw the first fathers and the righteous who dwell in that place from the beginning. And it came to pass after this that my spirit was translated or carried off, and it ascended into heaven. And I saw the sons of the holy angels, or sons of God. They were walking on flames of fire. Their garments were white, and their faces shone like snow. And I saw 2 rivers of fire, and the light of that fire shone like hyacinth. Hey, Patricia. It's good to see ya. And I fell on my face before the Lord of Spirits. And the angel Michael, one of the archangels, seized me by my right hand and lifted me up and led me out into all the streets. Not the streets, baby girl, the secrets. Out into all the secrets. And he showed me all the secrets of righteousness. And he showed me all the secrets of the ends of heaven and all the storehouses of all the stars and all the lights from where they proceed before the face of the holy ones. And he translated or carried my spirit into heaven of heavens. And I saw there, as it were, built of crystals, and between those crystals, tongues of living fire. And then I'm not surprised to see them interject Revelation 21:10 right here. Hey, Tampa. So Revelation 21:10 says, and he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain and shewed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. And her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. My spirit saw a circle of fire binding around the house of fire, and on its four sides were rivers full of living fire, and they encircled that house. That's quite the depiction. And round about were seraphim, cherubim, and ophanim. And these are they who never sleep, and they guard the throne of his glory. And I saw angels who could not be counted, 1,000 thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, encircling that house. And Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and the holy angels who are in heaven above go in and out of that house. And they came out from that house, and Michael and Gabriel, Raphael, Phanuel, and many holy angels without number. Interesting. So wait. They're circling the house. They go in the house, and then they come out of the house. Okay. And with them, the head of days, his head white and pure as wool, and his raiment indescribable. You did miss quite a bit, Patricia. You did. But let's be honest. It's tough to make heads or tails of any of this stuff. Unless you're Ghost. Then it all makes perfect sense. If you are Ghost. Otherwise, good luck. Good luck. But it's interesting. If you're around Saturday, we're starting something new. Just so you know. But I know you got a lot of stuff going on right now. And I fell on my face, and my whole body melted, and my spirit was transformed, transfigured. And I cried with a loud voice in the spirit of power. And I blessed and glorified and exalted. Psalm 22:14 says, I am poured out like water, and all of my bones are out of joint. My heart is like wax. It is melted in the midst of my bowels. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my jaws. And you have brought me into the dust of death. Back to the main text says, and these blessings which came from my mouth were very pleasing before that head of days, all capitalized, head of days. And the head of days came with Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Phanuel and thousands and 10,000s of angels without number. And the angel came to me and greeted me with his voice and said to me, this is the Son of Man who is born to righteousness, and righteousness abides over him. And the righteousness of the head of days, all capitalized, forsakes him not. And he said to me, he proclaims to you peace in the name of the world to come. For from there peace has proceeded since the creation of the world, and it shall be with you forever and forever and ever. John 17:24 says, Father, I will that they also, whom has given me, be with me where I am. Sorry, I'm trying to translate Old English. That they may behold my glory, which you have given me, for you loved me before the foundation of the world. That's John 17:24. And back to the main text. It says, and all shall walk in his ways, since righteousness never forsook him. Their dwelling place shall be with him, and it will be their heritage. And they shall not be separated from him forever and ever and ever. And so there shall be length of days with the Son of Man, and righteous shall have peace and an upright way in the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. Hebrews 4:3 says, for we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. She's very cute, indeed. Ghost is driving. We are listening. I hope you guys were doing something fun. Hopefully. The Book of Astronomy and Calendar. Gotta tell you, not a huge fan of this section, but I suppose it's important. So the Book of Astronomy and Calendar, chapter 72 through 82. The book of the courses of the luminaries of heaven, the relations of each, according to their name, origin, and months, or dominion and seasons, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, who is their guide, showed me, and he showed me all their laws or regulations exactly as they are. and how it is with each of the years of the world and to eternity, until the new creation is accomplished, which endures until eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern doors of heaven and its setting in the western doors of heaven. And I saw 6 doors in which the sun rises, and 6 doors in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these doors. And the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. There were also many windows to the right and left of those doors. And the first there goes out the great luminary, named the sun. And his sphere, or orbit or disk, is like the sphere, or orbit or disk, of heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. I thought ghost flew, not drive. Very true. Yeah, that's not a super fun thing to be doing. Fun would be sitting at home in my fleece with a hot cup of tea. That does sound lovely. It sounds like a lot more fun than driving somewhere that is not fun. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate door and shines in the face of heaven. In this way, he rises in the first month in the great door, which is the 4th. And in that 4th door, from which the sun rises in the first month, are 12 windows, from which proceed a flame when they are open in their season. When the sun rises in heaven, he comes out through that 4th door 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th door in the west of the heaven. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer and nights grow shorter to the 13th morning. On that day, the day is longer than the night by a 9th part. And the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that 4th door and sets in the 4th and returns to the 5th door of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it and sets in the 5th door. Hopefully this is all clicking perfectly fine, because it's all very, very simple. It makes so much sense. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts and amounts to 11 parts. And the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts. And it returns to the east and enters into the 6th door and rises and sets in the 6th door 1:30 mornings on account of its sign. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night. And the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. And the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer, and the sun returns to the east and enters into the 6th door, and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. It is really interesting, though, to see this being processed in a very different way than what most people are accustomed to. The what's under the hood of the understanding of the time, or at least a portion of people of the time, of how this all worked, what their perception was. It is very interesting. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes out from the 6th door in the west and goes to the east and rises in the 5th door for 30 mornings, and sets in the west again in the 5th western door. On that day, the day decreases by 2 parts and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun goes out from that 5th door and sets in the 5th door of the west, and rises in the 4th door for 1:30 mornings on account of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day, the day becomes equal with the night in length, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. And the sun rises from that door and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises 30 mornings in the 3rd door, and sets in the west in the 3rd door. And on that day, the night becomes longer than the day, and the night becomes longer than night, and day shorter than day, until the 13th morning, and the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. Hey, fam, I'm at my mama in-laws because she cooked us dinner, and I'm trying to spend time with her, but I wanted to say hi. I love y'all. That's so nice. It's good to see you. Go enjoy. Go enjoy it. It's a good night to not be available. We've got busy people tonight. Enjoy the time, dude. It's also just not the most fun or exciting part of the text. So if you have something else to do, nobody blames you. You can watch this at 3 times speed later. And the sun rises from the third door and sets in the third door in the west and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the second door in the east, and in like manner sets in the second door in the west of heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. And the sun rises on that day from that second door and sets in the west in the second door, and returns to the east into the first door for 130 mornings, and sets in the first door in the west of heaven. And on that day, the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day. And the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. And there's an author's note that says, if the night is 12 parts and the day is 6 parts, the entire 24-hour day is divided into 18 sections of 80 minutes each. One more time, in case you weren't drawing a calendar and sundials this entire time. If the night is 12 parts and the day is 6 parts, the 24-hour cycle is being divided into 18 sections of 80 minutes each. So it's not too far off from what we're used to. But it certainly is rough reading the showing of the work from this time. And the sun has traversed the divisions of his orbit and turns again on those divisions of his orbit and enters that door 30 mornings and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a 9th part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. And the sun has returned and entered into the second door in the east, and returns on those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And on that day the sun rises from that door, and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third door for 130 mornings, and sets in the west of heaven. On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days 364. And the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night, arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are separated. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer, and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law in the course of the great luminary, which is named the sun, and his return as often as he returns 60 times and rises forever and ever. And that which rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as to the Lord commanded. As he rises, he sets and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is 7-fold brighter than that of the moon, but in regard to size they are both equal. Graves. I would love to see the flat earth people run the work. I wonder how it fits in that perspective. Do you know what I mean? I would also, yeah, no, just that. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see the flat earth, like, because from what I understand, a lot of flat earth people are also big Enoch fans. So there must be something about it that I'm just not grasping that corresponds to their perspective of the flat earth. I need to try to look for that. Kat, will you remind me, please, to try to look for that? Because I'm curious. I'm curious. There's got to be something. What's wrong, Graves? And he rises, so he sets and decreases not, and rests not. We already read that, didn't we? Yeah, we did. They are both equal. Chapter 73. And after this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. Strap up, baby girl. And her orbit is like the sphere, or orbit, or disk, depending on translation, of heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind. And light is given to her in measurement. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniformly or completely full, it amounts to the seventh part of the light of the sun. That's when her light is uniformly or completely full. I guess it's similar enough. But that could be a thing. Uniformity and completeness aren't always the same thing. I suppose they can be the same thing, though. Go said, hey, Joe, I think that last verse about the sun, it means it's electromagnetic, like a sphere of heaven. The last one. As he rises, so he sets and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. But in regard to size, they are both equal. 37. Electromagnetic. Oh, verse 4. Well, we haven't read verse 4. Unless there's a delay, like a massive delay. 34? So it comes that its course becomes daily longer and its course nightly shorter. I'll have to look for which verse you're talking about. Because we ended the part about the sun in the 30s. And 73 is now about the moon. The sphere of heaven being our firmament, aka EMF. I hope you've made some ground or covered some ground on, because I remember asking you a long time ago with the EMF thing, the firmament, the electromagnetism. And we talked about this the other day. I need to see it. Like, I get the words and I picture them how I picture them, but I'm almost certain I'm not picturing them how you are meaning for them to be pictured by me, because I've learned that much about you and I. So I hope you've got some stuff, because it makes sense, but it makes sense how I'm perceiving that. And I'm not sure if I'm perceiving the concept or the idea correctly. And I'm very curious. It feels like math. It kind of does feel like math. I was just doing math with my kid and it was not fun. And this also is not fun. Top shelf stuff. Geoffrey. Hey, friend. Show us the diagrams, Ghost. Show us the pictures. Color us pictures. You just need to, Ghost, you need to make a slideshow. You need to use AI to produce some pictures. I've tried to explain a theory to y'all a bunch of times about how I view the earth and the spiritual battle and stuff. And I always pictured a certain way. And so I tried to have AI draw it, and it actually did a really, really good job. I just kept tweaking it, and it was like, okay. And it kept kind of changing it until it was good enough for me. Like, I was pleased. The diagram that it came up with was good enough. It was better than my rudimentary drawings of it. So you should play around with that, because you need to make some diagrams. Ruth said, I had a lucid dream. I was flying, woke up and couldn't wait to fly again. Then realized it was a dream. I wish I could fly as well. The lucid dream thing is a whole nother thing. I've only dreamt of falling. Yeah, I don't think I've ever dreamt of flying before. But I don't remember the vast majority of my dreams. So I guess it's not really fair to say. The coven has arrived. Hey, I found you on X, by the way, because I was curious, like, how legit are these folks? And so I looked, and you popped up. So just so you know, we love you. We talked about you quite a bit on one of these last ones. I don't remember, recently. And it's nice to have you. Patricia said, ever have the one where your teeth fall out? No, but I've heard about that. And that's horrible. Actually, once, but not like all of them. It was like a tooth. And it made sense. So I didn't really read too much into it. But I've heard about that. And Kat has told me about that. And I don't remember what it supposedly means. But I remember that it wasn't great. I remember that. Kat is really good and into the dream thing. So if you have weird dreams and you want to talk to somebody about weird dreams, Kat is the person to talk to. Anytime I have weird dreams, I talk to her. And I don't want to tell too much of her business, but she has experience. I'll say that. That's all. Patricia said, I've had it once, the teeth falling out dream. One of the worst ones ever. What did you take away from that? Because the dream, like what the dream was, who cares? But what was the takeaway? What did you think that meant? You know, what did you pull from that? David said, my teeth come out every night before I go to bed. I love you, David. The Enochian calendar is ridiculous, is what it is. It's ridiculous. I just want to see the flat earthers go through it. I would like to see how they explain it. Because explaining it from any perspective is extremely difficult. It's very, very hard. So I'd be really curious to see like how the flat earthers rope this into their view. Usually means you're worried about vanity, the teeth falling out thing. That's not what I remember. Is that what that was? It very well could have been. I don't remember. Oh my God, Kat, I will tell you sometime of my repetitive nightmares when I was a child. Yeah, you should. Because I used to have serious sleeping problems. And not necessarily dreams, but things related to dreams. And Kat has basically removed them from me. And was able to like add insight to a lot of them. Things that I wouldn't have thought about. She's very helpful. It's nice that I get her. And nobody else does. It's a very nice thing. Geoffrey said, I learned how to control my dreams as a young child and lost it. How did you learn that? So like, what was the process? Was your family like into that? Was it through prayer? Was it through like focused meditation, which in my opinion is just a different form of prayer? What did that look like out of curiosity? Patricia said, I can't remember what was happening at the time. My body does weird stuff in stress, so I chalk some things up to stress or anxiety or feeling out of control. I feel like that would make sense. Your teeth falling out is a pretty wild feeling of being out of control. But the vanity thing definitely makes sense too. I just want to like, what do you check this to? Like when you have a dream and you think it means something, what is your source? Like Christians, if a thing happens in their life, they're like, okay, I'll look at the Bible. What does it teach about this thing? What do you do with dreams? That's what I don't fully get. Okay, it's safe. We are at our annual gathering of witchcraft here in the Highlands of Scotland, as is our heritage. You are a favorite of our aged members. I'm a member? Or do you mean like the general you? All of us. You are a star here on our big screen in the forest. Bro, weird stuff, man. It's always great to have you, but weird stuff. Ooh, maiden. We're gonna go with maiden because that little dash above the E has got me tripping about how to pronounce your name. I've had some wild dreams. Has anyone on here ever had sleep paralysis? Now that's scary. See, it's actually on our list of things to talk about on Tuesdays. Every Tuesday on a different YouTube channel, we do topic discussions. And sleep paralysis, we covered it once, and that was a ridiculous conversation with a handful of people who got on the voice channel and we all talked about it, and that was crazy. But it's on the list to be talked about again, because yes, I know a number of us have, and it's very scary. It's the most fear I've ever felt. Now it's the second most. It's up there though, of the most fear like I've ever felt in my entire life was a sleep paralysis experience, and I did not believe in it until then. I was the cynic telling people they were being dramatic and pansies, and then I got a taste, and now I am a sad believer. Scotland, my ancestors' homeland. Kat said the source is the dreamer, requires brutal self-honesty and inward reflection. Is it the dreamer though? Like what part of the person? The soul? Because then is the soul individual to you? I have a lot of questions about that. I have more questions. Wouldn't it all kind of end all be all source back to something else though? Geoffrey said, schoolyard, other kids, it's all about recognizing that you are in the dream. Once you know, then you can control it. Okay, so just lucid dreaming in general. That's pretty wild if a bunch of school kids like taught each other how to lucid dream. That's pretty crazy story. Okay, Ghost said her days are like the days of the sun. Means the moon and the sun don't rotate. Her days are like the days of the sun. Means the moon and the sun don't rotate. I feel like you gotta explain that a little bit. Is that a confident interpretation, or is this like a thought? And I'm coming from, I don't have any opinion whatsoever at all. So very, very open. There is a delay. I'm noticing that too. I was like 4 or 5 years old when I had recurring sleep paralysis, Ruth said. It's horrifying. It's the worst thing ever. I don't do well being out of control. And that's a big out of control feeling. Kat said the deepest parts of our subconscious is where it comes from. But what is that? What is the subconscious, man? That's the question. Tampa said to the Coven of Witches, tell you ladies to calm down. The CI, I don't know if I should say that. The 3-letter agency also taught people how to lucid dream, but we can't discuss that. David said, before we fall headlong into this deep rabbit hole, please subscribe and like, as we might not surface tonight. David, you're so good. If you were not a marketer, I don't know what you did with your life, because I feel like that is your calling, my friend. Let's do a dream live. Yeah. Like it just dreams in general. Actually, that's a really good idea. I don't think that's on there. I will add this right now, and then we'll read a little bit more. I know we have sleep paralysis on here. Shoot, I need to edit this thing too. But we can do like dreams in general. I'll put that on the poll for this coming Tuesday, because we did not pre-decide this week on what we're doing. Oops. So I'll put that on there. It's a good idea. Maiden said, I think sleep paralysis comes from the demonic realm harassing us. I 1000% agree at this point in my life. I would have called you a kook 5 years ago. But I agree. Yeah. I mean, to say it simply, yeah. I agree. In terms everyone would understand. Yes. From the demonic realm. It was scary. I vividly remember those experiences I had to this very day, Ruth said. You definitely need to write your dreams down, for sure. You gotta keep a little journal in the phone. Coven, we just have ladies that are so attracted to him. Who is him? He just seems delicious. Let's make a deal. Just Molly. She's in love. Can she take you? I don't know how to respond to that. Pontoon McGore. Dreams are for nerds. You need to be awake. You need to be suffering. You need to be chain smoking and lamenting your past. Yes. This, what would you call it? You call that the red pill motto that is burning men's brains because they're no longer sleeping and also not making money. So just going nowhere in life. I love the sentiment though. Big fan of the sentiment. I feel the same way about some nightmares being demonic, Patricia said. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's all like influence, right? I think things can be influenced. I think you can be influenced. I don't know what I believe about dreams, but I think it's predominantly you, subconscious. But I think there's influence involved. But I don't know. I have not formulated personal convictions about those topics per se. Other nightmares are just like your pain not being resolved, says Patricia. Yeah, so then think about it like this though. What if you're having nightmares about just unresolved things in your life, and if you're that makes you vulnerable in a sense, right? It makes you like emotionally vulnerable. It makes you psychologically vulnerable, and if you're also spiritually vulnerable, then you're an easy target for something wanting to emit control over you to some degree or in some way. So it makes sense to me. And I think some days you're more vulnerable in any of those three arenas than others. But I think there's stereotypes and cliches about evil preying on the weak, because I think to some degree or fashion it's probably true. Who is Molly, my friend? I had to skip like 15 minutes to catch up to the live. Well, I mean, you didn't miss a lot, and you've read all this anyways. So we're at a good pick back up point. We're right about to start the moon. So if you're back up to the live video, then you're good from here forward. It's all connected, boys and girls, says Patricia. Yeah, I think it really is, though. Right? I think it's the underlying, it's the foundation of it all. And I think where there's cracks in the foundation, you're probably liable to get preyed on a little bit, I would say. The moon. After this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon. Sorry, reading something. And her orbit is like the sphere, or orbit, or disk of heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind. And light is given to her in measurement. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniformly or completely full, when it's uniformly or completely full, it amounts to the seventh part of the light of the sun. And thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes out on the 13th morning, and on that day she becomes visible and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 13th day, together with the sun in the door where the sun rises. Together with the sun in the door where the sun rises. And the one half of her goes out by a seventh part, and her whole disk is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, and the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the half thereof. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half, with him? She sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him. Wasn't the sun being referred to as feminine? Am I just tripping?
No, the sun is male. Sorry, I wish I could have hopped in earlier.
Was it? Okay, I'm just remembering wrong then. Okay. Well, good. Then that makes sense.
And the part where it says the days of the moon are like the days of the sun, that just means they don't rotate. They're fixed.
Okay. Okay.
This is just an ancient science lesson. They didn't use the word hemisphere and stuff like that. So when they're talking about all these fractions, it's just you get it. It's latitude, longitude.
Right. Have you really dug into this, or are you just taking most of it at face value? The
Cer
science.
Certainly not face value, but I couldn't sit here and, I haven't memorized it, but I know that's what they're referring to. Like when they say doors and windows, they're talking about latitudes and longitudes.
Is there
Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
is there any argue? This is not something I've looked at all, so you definitely know better than me. Is there? Do you know? Are there any alternative interpretations of it, or is that like widely accepted? I don't know.
Uh, I actually don't know. It's
Okay.
widely accepted by me, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it.
I haven't either. That's why I have no idea and I have no opinion. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. So I think that's perfectly plausible. Yeah, I have no
Yeah.
idea though, but that makes sense. Otherwise, yeah, you have a lot to account for. You have a lot to try to figure out.
He's talking about something and trying to get at what he's talking about. It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. I mean, after you said that, that definitely does make sense though. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
I
the
mean, if
best
you
you
look
got.
at a time lapse of sunrises and sunsets, you can kind of see how it creates. They're like slivers every month where it moves, and based on the hemisphere and the latitude and longitude.
Okay, and then it said the moon rotates too, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, because
It says
Geoffrey.
the moon and the sun's days are the same, meaning they don't rotate.
Okay, okay. Geoffrey, what was that in reference then to? We'll see. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that's fair. I'd be curious if there's any other interpretation, but I have no idea. And I probably don't care enough about this to look.
Oh, is Joffrey saying that the sun does rotate? I didn't think the sun rotated. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
That's what he said. Yeah, so he said, I just looked it up. The sun has rotation, the moon does not. I don't know. I'm totally ignorant with this kind of stuff. So,
Well, then I'd be wrong about it. I assumed the sun didn't rotate.
let's see. Does the sun rotate? The sun's equator rotates faster than its poles. The sun's equator, what? Oh, equatorial regions rotate in about 24 days, while the polar regions rotate in more than 30 days. The sun's rotation axis is tilted by about 7.25 degrees relative to the Earth's orbit. So yes, the sun rotates on its axis, but it rotates differentially. And the moon does not, I guess. No, this says the moon does rotate. This says the moon
rotates?
That's what it says. It says, yes, the moon rotates on its axis, but it rotates at the same rate that it orbits Earth. It's called synchronous rotation. The moon's rotation and orbit are both about 27 days long. The moon's synchronous rotation means that the same side of the moon always faces Earth. This is why we always see the same side of the moon, also known as the near side. The moon's synchronous rotation is caused by the gravitational pull between the Earth and the moon. The moon's rotation has slowed over time due to the Earth's gravity. The moon's gravitational pull on Earth also slows the Earth's rotation. So,
Then I have to say I don't understand what Enoch was referencing there.
But if he didn't know that, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think relativity plays in too, because like you just read, the moon rotates, but we can't perceive it. That's why we always see the face of it. So like if we
right.
can't perceive it, is it happening? I don't know.
Right.
Technically.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but perceptively, no. Okay, I didn't know either of those things, so I learned regardless.
Yeah, same here. I didn't.
Okay, Tampa said they don't know what the moon is doing, y'all. They'll change it tomorrow if it is necessary for the nonsense game. The sad thing is I actually kind of agree with that. I don't know. I don't know, dude. Like, who am I to talk when somebody's shooting rockets into the sky? I have such little faith in the institutions that tell us about the moon and about the sun and stuff. It's why I don't care. I just feel like there's no hope. There's no way for me to possibly know, so why would I waste any of my time on it? Geoffrey said this could have had something to do with the authority of Su and Moon, Genesis 1:16. God dang it. 1:16. Oh, we just read through this. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. He also made the stars. What do you mean? This could have something to do with the authority of the sun and the moon. What exactly? What could have to do? Yeah, I gotcha. The sun and the moon. But what exactly could have something to do with?
Authority would mean their role or purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not sure what he means, though.
For sure. Especially in the context of Genesis, because that's a continual theme across virtually all initial topics is the authority. AR, astronomy as a metaphor for the motion of cosmic energy. Emotion. Huh.
I could get behind that because of fractals.
Yeah, I'm with that. AR. That's good stuff. Stick around. Root said, it sure is a nonsense game. Speaking of games, we should have game night again. Yeah, we really should. That kind of got thrown off. We will talk in the background and see when we can get that organized. We'll get that set up. Because, yeah, I missed that. That was fun. Okay. I think we're good. All right. So, verse. We're talking about the moon. And she sets with the sun. And when the sun rises, the moon rises with him and receives the half of one part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the beginning of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun and is invisible that night with the 14 parts and the half of one of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a seventh part and comes out and recedes from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days, she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. And I saw another course, a law for her, and how according to that law, she performs her monthly revolution. And all these, Uriel, the holy angel who is the leader of them all, showed to me, and their positions. And I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights until 15 days were accomplished. In single seventh parts, she accomplished all her light in the east, and in single seventh parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And in certain months, she alters her settings, and in certain months, she pursues her own peculiar course. In 2 months, the moon sets with the sun. In those two middle doors, the third and the fourth. In certain months, I'm rereading. In certain months, she alters her setting, and in certain months, she pursues her own peculiar course. And in 2 months, the moon sets with the sun. In those two middle doors, the third and the fourth. She goes out for 7 days and turns about and returns again through the door where the sun rises and all her light is full. And she recedes from the sun. And in 8 days enters the sixth door from which the sun goes out. And when the sun goes out from the fourth door, she goes out 7 days until she goes out from the fifth and turns back again in 7 days into the fourth door and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes and enters into the first door in 8 days. And she returns again in 7 days into the fourth door from which the sun goes out. Thus I saw her positions, how the moons rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an excess of 30 days, and all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years, when they're full, amount to 364 days. And an excess of the sun and of the stars amounts to 6 days, and 5 years, 6 days every year. In 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. Some of these sentences are rough, man. And the moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day to eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. Oh, geez. In 3 years, there are 1,092 days. And in 5 years, there are 1,820 days. So that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days. And then there is an author's note that says the end of 5 years, a week may be added to bring the year back in line. Compare 1826.25 days of the solar year in 5 years to 1820 days of the Enochian calendar after 5 years. This leaves 6.25 day difference. Adding a week to the Enochian calendar leaves a difference of only 0.75 of a day. The year is adjusted in this way so that the alignment is kept very close. See, that's super interesting. That's very, very interesting. that was a great question. Jonah, great question. David said, nope, I heard 50 hogs ate 50 pounds of range cubes today. In fact, every day. Oh, I've heard a lot of snorts today because Kat snorted at what David said, which was, fun fact, first thing my wife said to me was, is that a mask? Geoffrey said at creation, spirit of Elohim is the lesser light, Genesis 1:3, the greater eternal light of the sun given authority over the sun. Yeah, right? If I'm reading that right. The greater eternal light of the sun or is the sun? Eternal light of the sun given authority over the sun. Or the light of the sun that's given authority over the sun. I think I get what you're saying. But I'm not totally sure. This is the genealogy portion of Enoch. That's actually a really good way to put that. Yeah. That's actually a really good way to put that. I didn't think about it like that. Maiden said the Bible isn't hard to understand. Woof. Yo, read it literally. I will tell you the meaning if you keep reading. You can read the Bible as many times as you want. If you don't learn outside of the Bible, you cannot read the Bible. I'm not the guy to say that to, because I will rant on here for the next at least 8 minutes about this. No problem. I love it. You cannot just read the Bible over and over and over again and understand the Bible. That's not how it works. You don't get a magic download to your brain hard drive. That is not a real thing. I know this because I worked in the churches for a very long time. And the guys who could parrot things in the Bible had no idea what they meant. We've had people come on here before and parrot verses like nobody's business. And a couple of those guys did also know what they were talking about. But we've had others who do not at all. This is not how it works. That's not real life. Memorizing things or reading things over and over again does not mean you understand the exegetical or hermeneutical practice of it, the greater context of what was happening. You have to have it. You got to have it. Reading doesn't give that to you. Reading outside of the Bible gives that to you. Okay, I won't read that out loud. We got like 5 minutes. In 3 years, we read that. All right, we read the author's note. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days. and in 5 years she falls 50 days, behind to the sum of 1770. There is 5 to be added, 1,062 days. And in 5 years there are 1,770 days, so that for the moon, the days 6 in... And in 5 years, there are 1770 days. So that for the moon, the days 6 and 8 years amount to 21,832 days. For in 8 years, she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. And the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the stations of the sun, which rise from the doors through which the sun rises and sets 30 days. I can imagine Isaac Newton obsessing over these verses. And the leaders of the heads of the 10,000 who are in charge of the whole creation and over all the stars have also to do with the 4 days of the year, which are not counted in the early calendar, being not separated from their office, according to the reckoning of the year. And these render service on the 4 days which are not counted in the reckoning of the year. And because of them, men go wrong in them. For those luminaries truly render service to the stations of the world, one in the first door, one in the third door of heaven, one in the fourth door, and one in the sixth door. And the exactness of the year is accomplished through its separate 364 stations. For the signs and the times, and the years and the days, the angel Uriel showed to me, whom the Lord of glory had set forever over all the luminaries of heaven and in the world, that they should rule on the face of heaven, and be seen on the earth, and be leaders for the day via the sun, and the night via the moon, and stars, and all the ministering creatures, which make their revolution in all the chariots of heaven. In like manner, 12 doors Uriel showed me open in the sphere or disk of the sun's chariot in heaven, through which the rays of the sun break out, and from them is warmth diffused over the earth, when they are opened at their appointed seasons. And there are openings for the wind and the spirit of dew, that when they are opened, stand open in heaven at the ends of the earth. As for the 12 doors in the heaven at the ends of the earth, out of which go out the sun, moon, and stars, and all the works of heaven in the east and in the west, there are many windows open to the left and right of them. Sorry, I'm trying to picture this through the longitude and latitude interpretation that Ghost gave. I'm trying to visualize this. And one window at its pointed season.
Yeah, think of time lapses. Like, go on YouTube and look up like sun and moon time lapses, and then you'll start to see what Enoch was talking about, I think, in my opinion.
I definitely get it. I get it. I'm trying to write it into my brain as I'm reading it. I think it's a fair way to interpret, and I'm not sure how else you would. But I'd be curious to see if there were any other ones. But I think this, like, on its face makes sense. It checks out as I'm reading now. Well,
the problem is the way he explains it is hard to visualize.
Yes.
When he talks about specifics like numbers and whatnot, but like as a whole, I think that's what he's talking about.
It's picturable, but for sure, a lot of the detail kind of bogs down the picture. I feel like, or at least makes it kind of difficult to picture. But I definitely see it. I think it's a fair way to look at it for sure. Geoffrey said 100 men will come up with 100 different understandings of the Bible. That is exactly right. Geoffrey also said
that's why I call it a Rorschach test.
Yeah, that really is a great description of it. It really, really is. This is the lunar and solar astrology. This is lunar and solar astrology.
I mean, astrology and astronomy are, it depends on what time you're in, because that's just the way they used to think about it. And then that astrology developed into astronomy, just like, alchemy developed into chemistry.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Astrology like started as a belief system and then converted into, I guess not really, but grew parts of it grew into what became astronomy, which was more of like a practice, like the actual science of it, from what I
Because what
understand.
what Enoch was doing, or whoever wrote it, what they were trying to illustrate, it was science. It was just science of the time.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
science just means knowledge. So it's just everyone can't know everything, especially in the older time period. So that was just the way they knew things.
for sure. And just like everything else, the astrology got a it got a weird rap because of what a lot of it turned into, but it no longer has to actually do with like the astrology at that point. It became more of like a spiritual practice and less about the, like you just said, the literal science of the time, because it's all they had. It's all they knew. It's why you find like some of, among many others, but like there are certain errors in the Bible that are just like scientifically not true. Like mentions of animals in some cases are just not true. How they describe them, what they describe them to be, is just not accurate. But it's all they had. Like that's all they knew.
Like
You,
what? Just if
there,
you can think of any.
there was one that was about a mammal, or they called something a mammal, or described it as a mammal that wasn't. I want to say bat, but I don't think that's accurate. I'll find it. But there were at least two like mentions of animals that got interpreted as a scientific description of them for the time. And so atheists kind of clung on to that for a period of
Oh
time.
wow. I've
Uh-huh.
never heard that.
I'll find it. I'll find one of them for you before I get off tonight. But there,
Yeah.
it's good to know, anyways, because it was one I haven't heard it in a really, really long time. But when I was early on doing all this stuff, that was one that atheists would throw at me a lot, and it was one I didn't know about. So I looked into it, and who cares? Like, if that's what they thought that was, that's what they thought that was. Like, that doesn't discount anything at all.
Yeah, but
There's
God's literally writing it.
exactly right, exactly right. I just like it's the least of my worries with the Bible if we're judging it harshly. The least of my worries. Patricia
Yeah.
said, I'm curious to know what actual early astrology was like compared to modern astrology with personality types and stuff. I don't know a lot, but from what I remember, it's not even comparable. I think astrology has turned into a religion of sorts, like in a sense. And then for some people, it's an absolute diehard religion. But it turned into like everything else. It kind of turned into a cartoonish thing to make people feel good, which honestly, like Christianity became that in a lot of ways. A lot of religions become that in a lot of ways. But astrology, from what I understand, like early on, it was more like Ghost said, where people were practicing science. They were trying to learn things and like draw knowledge on the world around them and how things worked and how they functioned. And in doing so, like culturally, because of how the cultures were, just like with everything else, they tied themselves to a lot of those things. It's like the whole rain gods and the goddess of spring and fertility. Like humans have always kind of developed beliefs. Some of them attempts at science, but then they always seem to draw themselves into it in like a spiritual or with a spiritual perspective to a point. That would be another interesting Tuesday, is to go through like ancient astrology. That'd
I
be
mean, modern science is kind of religious when you think about it.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Never changed.
No, no, yeah, fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, it really did not. We saw that real hard over the past 5 years. Patricia, I put astrology on for a Tuesday too on the big list, because that'd be a good topic. That'd be interesting. Tampa said, not quite think along those lines, but a whole file filled with eureka moments downloading instantly. Oh, okay. Okay. I caught up. Shoot, there was something else. I don't remember now. I have to roll in a minute, but we will figure out game night soon. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe, I don't know. We'll talk offline and figure it out. So anybody who's interested, we will be doing a game night soon. So in Discord, in the events thing, once we get that nailed down, I'll put it in here. So it'll just say game night. And you need 2 devices unless your phone or tablet can do split screen. Because you have to have Discord open to watch something. And then you have to have an internet browser open to make selections and play games. They're interactive games. It's really, really, really fun. There's a lot of super fun games. So if you're interested, Geoffrey, you're welcome to come play with us. But hopefully this weekend, but if not, next weekend for sure. I'm sure we can schedule it. And then Saturday, we're going to read the Gospel of Judas. And I'm getting all that finalized now because it's all the Gnostic stuff is really hard to find in good format. But I think I found a decent one. So we'll read the Gospel of Judas starting on Saturday. It'll probably take us 2 weeks, maybe 3. And then Sunday's the Book of Job. And then Tuesday, I don't know yet. I'm going to post the poll for Tuesday tonight. So when we get off, I will do that. And then Ghost, I'll try to find that verse before I forget about the animal thing.
Did it have to do with an anteater? I have a vague memory of someone complaining about anteaters.
I keep wanting to say it's a bat, but I think I'm wrong. I don't remember, but now it's going to drive me crazy. So I will find it. I will find it. I don't know about an anteater though, but now I want to look into that too. I'm not sure. That would be a good.
Could have been from something else.
Yeah, maybe. They knew too much more. They knew much more way back. That's why the kings came to see Jesus after the Star of Bethlehem. I think they knew more in some senses, but I wouldn't say blanket statement. But I am out. This was nice. Love y'all. Ghost, have a good night. We'll talk about game night. We'll get something figured out soon.
All right, later, man.
Later, dude.
Later, chat.
See you guys. I think it was a bird. I think you're right. I'll find it. Love y'all. Have a good night.